So good evening and thanks for staying until the last talk. And I have an opportunity to make a good transition from Adolf's talk as I will continue with relations of the Adolf Uexküll and Adolf Portmann, but perhaps in a bit different context and for a bit different reasons. So, and I'll start off actually with what we all know. Namely the causes of current biodiversity loss, which are attributed to certain human activities involving the introduction of invasive species or the destruction of habitats, also climate change, and so on. So we are all familiar with that. But less is these phenomena are considered as certain direct impacts on species or organisms which exterminate them. But less attention actually is paid to the fact that sometimes those impacts are mediated by perceptual or cognitive structures of the organism or organisms. And actually, this sort of a mediation is also the reason why the environment and the organism do not match with one another anymore. Or in other words, we could call those discrepancies between the organism and the environment the novel ecological mismatches. So what I would like to do in my talk and in the paper I would like to submit to the volume is to first of all, to demonstrate how actually this discrepancy between perceptual and cognitive schemes and the changes in the environment, the rapid changes, contribute to the decline and well-being of different organisms. But secondly, also to see how Uexküll's and Adolf Portmann's works could contribute to those debates. This question about the retention and maintenance of certain perceptual and cognitive structures was a topic which was of interest for both biologists, for Uexküll and Portmann. And well, the activity of, although Portmann was 23 years younger than Uexküll, their activity falls in the time when the extent and consequences of human activity on biodiversity were perhaps not so much recognized yet. But yet, their works allow to highlight the importance of the semiotic matching between the perceptual schemes and the characteristics of the environment as the ultimate precondition for the persistence of organisms and species. I have not found any evidence for the meeting in person of those two authors, Uexküll and Portmann, and there is also no evidence of any correspondence between the two in the Adolf Uexküll archive in Tartu. Yes, and as I told, as you see also, Portmann was younger than Uexküll and he published his first works when Uexküll was finishing his last ones. Uexküll by background was a physiologist of marine invertebrates, and he started off with an interest in the neurophysiological mechanisms of animal behavior. And well, Portmann, who you are well familiar with, well, he laid his behavioral studies on more morphological, ontological, but also evolutionary grounds. And as Karla already mentioned, we can find actually several references to Uexküll in Portmann's works, but it doesn't apply vice versa really. And as an example, I have brought here his work, Portmann's work on the Grenzen des Wissens, where he also discusses Uexküll's writings and their influence on the development of his own ideas. And he particularly mentions there the 1921 version of Uexküll's book Riin. And again, to repeat some things that Carlo already said, he, in this book, also mentions Uexküll appreciating him as the introducer of natural scientific means for analyzing the inwardness of eidetic type of animals, and also highlighting his contribution to revealing the diversity of non-human sensory worlds. Yes, and besides those empirical studies, well, both authors obviously had a strong interest in the theoretical aspects of life sciences. Jakob von Uexküll also authored one of the first monographs on theoretical biology, theoretische Biologie, and well, Portmann contributing to the development of philosophical zoology and aesthetics of biological forms. Just trying to sum up in very general terms the commonalities of the two authors. Well, the reluctance to accept the reductionist tendencies in life sciences, also an interest in the relations between biological forms and biological interactions, focus on the formation and functioning of meaningful structures in the biological world, and the appreciation of the legacy of German Romanticism as the potential philosophical framework for biology. Could be some set of general aspects which unite them. Yes, and although there appear to be no real confrontations in the works of the two authors, the focus of their interests still is partly different. Portmann lays more stress on the interspecies communication and the development of biological forms, whereas for Uexküll the focus stays mainly on the perception and action of an individual organism. But now coming to this question of persistence and change of the cognitive and perceptual schemes in the works of these two authors. So in the works of Jakob von Uexküll, the body of the organism provides a stable ground for perception and action. And it goes, as he discusses it in its adult form, it undergoes relatively little change. And he even has two words for the phase where for the adult stage of the organism, which he calls a mechanical phase, and he distinguishes it from what he calls a technical phase, where the organs are yet non-functional and they are in the process of development. So given this persistence of the bodily structure, one could think that the processes of cognition and perception provide the flexibility for the organism, which is not susceptible to fast morphological change anymore in its adult form. However, also those cognitive and perceptual structures hold certain stability of forms, which help to keep the organism functioning. So, for example, Uexküll discusses what he calls schemes as responsible for the shaping of things as well as for the sketching of images in imagination. And when he writes about the organisms with more complex nervous system, he maintains that in the counter world, so this is a specific type of word, Gegenwart in German, which is characteristic to the more complex organisms. So in this counter world, the things of the Umwelt are mediated by schemes, which in accordance with the organizational plan of the organism can be very general and can sum up very many types of things. but the schemes can be also very exclusive and can focus on very specific things. The schemes are not the product of an umbrella, but they are particular tools of the brain, given through the organizational plan, and are always ready to get into action given the stimuli of the outer world. So Uexküll does not actually delve in depth into the mechanisms and conditions of the preservation of those schemes or the change of those schemes. But he rather gives anecdotal evidence of how the schemes can guide and shape what is being actually perceived. So the persistence of schemes or also configurations of sites can first of all depend on the individual experiences of the animal. For example, the previously experienced shape of some item can make the organism look for a similarly shaped item in the future. So Uexküll brings an example of a toad who has been eating an earthworm, and when next time he's looking for food, he will be looking for the elongated objects, which can be also sticks, for example. But he has this particular search image which guides his perception in the search of food. So besides the experiential wiring and imprinting of certain perceptual forms for future use, Uexküll actually also mentions innate mechanisms which he calls magical, and which also make animals attend to certain signs. Well, but he doesn't really specify the biological processes which could ground them. And as he puts quite different phenomena under that, from the migration restlessness of captive birds to the specific food choice of some insect larvae, it's also like retrospectively hard to pinpoint to some real biological mechanism behind this magical. And thirdly, Uexküll introduces a third type of structures, which also preserve certain perceptual forms and signs, but which do not connect the organism and the environment via perception. And he calls these type of structures archetypes. And he brings as an example the spider, the fly, and the spider web, where the spider spins the web without knowing anything about the perceptual capacities of a fly, but yet he's capable of building the net in a way which will actually capture the fly. But one might think now further that what happens then, or what if the schemes do not really match with the semiotic niche? So that's a term which has been introduced by a biosemantician, Danish biosemantician Jesper Hoffmeyer, who denotes with that all the cues in the environment which the animal should attend in order to cope. So what if those two are not anymore corresponding to one another? So if Uexküll's focus was mainly on the ways animals structure and give meaning to the world, so Adolf Portmann's interests lie more on the ways the innerlichkeit is exposed and mediated by the expressions and appearances of the organism. And as Portmann describes, then the innerlichkeit is also mediated and exposed by various forms of self-expression, some of which then imply a particular receiver, while others only a potential receiver. So that's something we have heard already in several talks also. But he also makes the distinction between different kinds of expressions, between the spontaneous expression, the temporary expression or expression organs, and constant expressions. And so these expressions then do not serve the survival value only, but contribute to the way of being of this particular animal. But yet, again, when we think further, it does not exclude the possibility that in some occasions those expressions can actually be detrimental to the animal or to the existence of the organism. And so if Uexküll's works allow to turn attention to the cases where so to say wrong things are perceived or acted upon, then I think Portmann's works could supplement that with focus on occasions when the expressions, appearances, means of communication do not make sense anymore in this particular environment. And in addition, Portmann also briefly discusses the stability of certain perceptual schemes and responses to, for example, terms such as gestalten and also innate releasers. But I will not start about these terms further because I think this inner-related appearances going together is more important for in Portmannian context. And so now we could come to the modern context and to the processes of human-induced rapid environmental change. So in the face of current human-induced rapid environmental change, well, there are some ecologists who are starting to pay attention also to the discrepancies between the evolutionarily or ontogenetically formed recognition schemes and the novel environmental cues. So the field called cognitive ecology is, for example, paying attention to this kind of phenomenon. But actually handling these sort of perceptual mismatches which are caused by the human-induced environmental change, it's also one of the hardest tasks for conservation biology. So you can create a habitat for a species, or you can take him to a different one which is more suitable for him. But how will you make him really recognize the things that he needs to recognize? So that seems to be a really challenging task for conservation biologists. And if we take a look at the modern cognitive biology, so we can see that it actually entertains different pattern recognition theories, which try to explain how the cognitive and perceptual templates of organisms are applied and formed. But what unites them is the presumption still about the presence of some recognition templates which the organisms will then project in the environment. What is still open for debate, though, is whether all previous perceptual images serve as templates, whether a certain prototype is formed as an average of all multiple percepts, or if only certain features of objects serve as the basis of comparison with features stored in memory. And there are, well, we find actually multiple examples of environmental cues which some species have made use of in their evolutionary past, but that have not become, but which have now, in the context of human-induced environmental change, deceitful. So, because the transformation of the habitat usually entails the introduction of certain objects and cues which have never existed in the object of species before. So that might, for example, involve the introduction of some novel objects that are mediated by the old cues or by the cues with which the animals are actually familiar with. Here's an example of the picture. The case of bull-breasted beetles in Western Australia, which serves, yes, exactly as an example of how the insect makes use of a novel object by using the old cues, because it was observed that male beetles commonly waked with the beer bottles, as the latter have similar shiny brown color and texture that the female beetles have, and so the male beetles take the bottles simply for mating partners. And similarly, for example, asphalt roads with polarized light reflection from the surface allure mayflies to lay eggs as they mimic polarized water surface. Again, an example of how the new object is attended to by old cues, and this is not something good for the organism. And in addition to the presence of novel cues or the deceptive character of old cues, the animal's well-being may also depend on the lack of certain cues, which in the evolutionary or ontogenetic history of the animal have indicated certain objects. So in these days, one of the main causes of bird deaths in towns is the collision with windows, and this is yes, caused by the fact that they simply don't have any cues there which would indicate that the windows actually are obstacles. Yes. So there's also such instances where we can see that the perceptual expectations, the perceptual structures, and the objects which are in the normal environments do not match with one another anymore. But to come now to a synthesis, so what could Portmann's and Uexküll's theories contribute to targeting the perception-mediated novel ecological mismatches? So, especially Uexküll actually has been criticized for the rigidity of his Umwelt model, so which does as if not allow for any flexibility really. So the Umwelt is as it is, and the animal is as if captivated in this Umwelt. So this sort of a relative rigidity might on the one hand make Uexküll and Portmann perhaps also with his claim about this strict connection with the appearances and inwardly quite unsuitable to explain the processes that current environmental change has induced. However, on the other hand, the models may actually give a good ground to discuss the fixation of certain perceptual and behavioral relations and their functioning in the context of current environmental change. Usually, in evolutionary terms, this persistence of perceptual schemes is found to be of value when the environments are unstable. But actually also in environments which undergo rapid change, those persistent recognition schemes may serve some purpose, as they might induce a fast acceptance of novel, meaningful objects, if those objects are beneficial for the organism. On the other hand, at least from a certain level of complexity, cognitive and recognition schemes really can change much faster than several other characteristics of the organism, like the bodily structure itself. So the search images, as discussed by Uexküll, they offer a stable ground of recognition for the future. Yet they are actually acquired through the experiences of the organism, as was the example of the toad. And hence they are still more plastic than the bulk plan or the structure or the building plan of the organism. and also the unaddressed appearances of Portmann may find a receiver at a certain point, and hence the organism may enter into novel ecological relations without having to really change its morphological features. So developing those ideas further, one can also reach the discussions of epigenetics with a shift in recognition and the transmission of the shift by learning, serving as a prerequisite for possible genetic change in the future. And the partly different focus of Uexküll's and Portmann's works allows to address different phenomena in this ecological mismatch framework. So the works of Uexküll allow to address phenomena which concern the mismatch between Umwelt and the semiotic niche, and Portmann's works would allow to provide some ground, some philosophical ground perhaps, to address the change of the meaning of expressive features or appearances in the novel conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your talk. Do you personally agree with the interpretation of Umwelt as something a little bit solipsistic, or do you think that in Uexküll's writings there is also this possibility to say that interpretations of given species can change during its ontogeny, and it can also change according to meetings with another species and so on. For example, in connection to his work to guide dogs and so on.
Yes, definitely there's examples of how the meaningful relations change also within the lifetime of the organism, especially in ontogeny, or he has several discussions. Also the examples of Stimmungen and the moods is an example how the being actually, how the same object can change depending on the needs of the organism or the particular state of the organism itself. So that definitely I would say that we can find in his work significant number of cases where he discusses the change of the Umwelt. But I think it's a bit different question whether the Umwelt is a solipsistic phenomenon or not. So the fact that it can change throughout the life does not exclude the possibility that it's still like something which the organism projects. And well, I think that's something the biosemanticians have tried to somehow take Uexküll away from, or by stressing this aspect of the sign as a mediator between the object and the subject, and somehow finding this meeting point in the interpretation and not being projected by the organism only. But yeah, if you look at Uexküll himself, then I think I agree mostly with Karla that he has really this idea of projecting the signs into the environment where they are taken as cues of certain objects. The original starting point is always the organism's own activity in projecting the signs to the environment, to the world.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to agree with you with the possibility to use Uexküll's idea of Umwelt as an argument in favor of biodiversity, because it is something that Uexküll did not do, and I think it was a man of his times, and it was too much to ask him for. But now we can understand that when a species extinguishes, when a species disappears, it is a whole world that gets lost. And this is a way I have also explored in a course for environmental ethics. It's one point where Uexküll can be used to say to people, for instance, if an animal is kept in a zoo, it is not, he apparently in a good state of physically good, well, but this is not enough to say that his life is complete. He is maybe not able to live in an umwelt, a subjective umwelt that is for him something satisfying, a source of satisfaction for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's also what Morten does in
Yes.
his umwelt ethics. It provides a phenomenological ground to ethics. Yes. Exactly that. If a species is lost, the world is lost.
I have one more question regarding the differences between species. So, the first intuition would be if the species is complex enough, and some ecologists even talk about animal cultures in the case of chimpanzees and some other animals. So for this species with relatively unfixed genetic patterns of behavior, like the loss of the habitat theoretically may not be detrimental. But in fact it seems that are more often some primates who are more endangered than, for example, let's say birds who are quite able to go into our cities and actually thrive or coexistence with humans. And I don't want to claim now that birds are simpler than mammals, but like this general topic, like which species are able to change their environment and so on.
Yeah, that's a good question. Not that I have a good answer to that. Well, yeah, it tends to be simply that the more complex the organism is, the more complex are the needs also. Like, it's more easy for it to get into an ecological trap, for example. So maybe you can create some, or he can find easily some food, alternative food sources, but does it mean that there will be also suitable partners in the region, suitable living places and so on. So it's the needs also more complex needs. It's not that, yeah. So maybe that's one of the reasons why those more complex organisms really are observed to get into the ecological traps more easily, for example. But yeah, on the other hand, it's true that they could presume some more flexibility in choosing things and adapting, but it doesn't work always like that. So.
I was wondering myself, there's probably not very much work in this area, theoretical or practical, but which would you think is a more common case of mismatches? Is this intraspecific or interspecific communication of mismatches, or environmental mismatches? And also, would you expect also kind of different types of or extents of plasticity to somehow fall into these different categories?
Yeah, as much as I've read this literature, I wouldn't say there's a significant difference between the two. But yeah, especially this, let's say ecologists discuss the topic mostly actually in connection with invasive species. And this brings along the focus on the interspecies communications and interspecies interactions, and the inability of a prey animal especially to adapt to unknown predators. But yeah, you do find just as much in cases like this oppressed beetles or animals coming to towns and facing problems here. And so wouldn't say that there is any difference here.
Or in the speed of adaptability.
Also, I wouldn't say it's. I mean, there are usually different factors which matter how well the organism is willing to accept that novel item, be it alive or not. So it's how it's related to its own strategies of existence, whether it's a generalist, whether it's a specialist. Also, if there are any similar items still existing in its world, what's the level of similarity to the known objects? Yeah, and also the question of, well, for example, in this prey and predator interactions, for how long has the predator not been in this environment? So if it's, for example, reintroduced in a few generations by some higher mammals, so they might have this teaching and learning of the predator still present there. But if it's longer, then again, it's more problematic. So I would say the differences are rather in those aspects, not so much whether it's a live or non-living item which is related to.
Thank you very much.
So, thanks all the